such collaborations. Now, let's go to the role of grant in all of this thing we're talking about, multidisciplinary research. Some research are very expensive. I mean, very expensive. Huge sums of money are needed to do some certain kinds of collaboration, multidisciplinary research, needing people to collaborate from between one discipline and the other. So, it's then important that one should access grants to be able to do such research. Grants come in different forms, and this is where students have to take note of this. There is a difference between financial aid and grants. So when a financial aid, let me define it. Financial aid is money that is lent or given to help pay for research collaborations. It's either money that is lent to someone, or you borrow money, or it is given to an individual who is a researcher. So, when money is lent to a researcher or to a student to do research or to study, that has to be paid back, and it's no longer a grant. And doing expensive research, the worst thing you want to do is to borrow money to do research. In fact, one should not spend his money to do research. And that is why there is emphasis on grants and scholarships, because these are known as gift aid. So a grant is given to you and you don't have to pay back, unlike when money is lent to you to do research. So the idea or the ideal thing in multidisciplinary research is to access grants to be able to fund the research. And this grant shouldn't be paid back. It's not a loan. Therefore, grants, scholarships are known as gift aid, no payback. And there are many institutions, locally, internationally, that provide grants for researchers to access in order to fund their research. Oftentimes, the terms scholarship and grant are used interchangeably. Yes, oftentimes they are used interchangeably, but they are different. Even though both are forms of aid, the differences exist between them. There are differences between them. Number one, scholarships are merit-based. It has to be based on merit. And oftentimes it's because of one's proven academic ability or athletic ability. And many scholarships have got rules. I'm still trying to distinguish between scholarships and grants. Scholarships are merit-based, and there are rules and regulations on how to apply for and be given scholarship to study or to do grants. On the other hand, grants are based on needs, oftentimes because of one's financial vulnerability, which can be stratified at two levels, at country level and an individual level. So a country can be financially vulnerable and an individual can be financially vulnerable. Countries have been classified into groups by the World Bank in terms of country-specific vulnerability. So we have low-income countries, we have middle-income countries, and we have high-income countries. The second group, which is the middle-income country, is sub-classified into two. We have the lower middle-income countries and then the upper middle-income countries. The high-income countries, like the USA, the UK, they don't have much financial vulnerability like countries categorized in low or middle-income countries. So I'm going to focus on low-income countries and middle-income countries because these are countries that have financial vulnerability, and therefore because of this vulnerability, they are able to access certain grants that are available to countries in this category. So, for instance, Nigeria is a lower middle income country. It has graduated from low income country to lower middle income country.
Wow.
Yes. So there are certain kinds of grants that are available from certain institutions for Nigerians, specifically Nigerian researchers, to access to do multidisciplinary research. So Nigeria is a lower middle income country. South Africa is an upper middle income country. So the World Bank has got definitions and criteria for which countries are classified or boxed into these categories. So we just talked about financial vulnerability at country level. There is financial vulnerability at individual level. For instance, it is believed that being a woman or a female makes you financially vulnerable. And therefore, there are grants that are available for female researchers to access, because they know there are certain peculiarities among females that brings about gender imbalance in terms of financial vulnerability between men and women. So certain kinds of grants are available to women, specifically for women, because of this vulnerability. So this is an example of individual specific vulnerability. Oftentimes too, black people are financially vulnerable. And of course we know this. I mean, virtually everyone who is employed, most people who are employed, have to pay school fees for their siblings or send money to their aging parents. Some kind of responsibility, just because we live in this part of the world where we are vulnerable people. Just being a black man, we are vulnerable. And so there are grants that are made available to certain races, blacks, certain Asians and all of that. These grants can be accessed in order to do multidisciplinary research.